when a situation where you find that a person look at the situation,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
All right, thank you for staying. If you're just joining, you're watching Daybreak. Now time for us to take a look at the dailies on Daybreak. And we have Nuruddin Abdullah, the editor of 21st Century Chronicle, in the studio to give us perspectives on some of the stories on our front pages. Good morning and thank you for
joining. Good morning.
All right. Now let's begin with Daily Trust newspaper this morning. Quite interesting stories there. The lead story talks about the 2023 presidency. It says PDP committee to jettison zoning, and the writer says decision to be finalized Tuesday. 13 northern, southern aspirants pick forms. Saraki, Tambuwal, Mohammed meet IBB. And then at the top there you see Nigerians react as NFF sacks Super Eagles technical crew. And then you'd see a British firm to fix Ajakuta steel for free, and that's according to the federal government of Nigeria. The pictorial there shows you the visits of the president of Niger Republic, Mohamed Bazoum, at the presidential villa yesterday with President Muhammadu Buhari. Beside that, driver dies as Lagos-Kano train derails in Kaduna. You'd find that on page 7. Defection, Kwara Assembly declares loyalist seat vacant, and that's on page 12 of Daily Trust newspaper. The next story there says concern over recurring failure of foreign trained doctors. The details of that is on page 3. And then at the bottom there, bandits on rampage in Abuja, Kogi and Kaduna. The writer says kill 11, abduct customs officer, others in Zaria. Kaduna city residents jittery after bomb discovery. These are some of the stories on the front page of Daily Trust newspaper this morning. Now, quite interesting stories, really. Before we take a look at the issues of the politics, the issues of our train seem to be a big issue in the past few days. Now, let's put aside the issue of the train attack. Now we are also seeing that the train is derailing, and it's happening in the same Kaduna, as a result of the vandalism that is going on. The sleepers, on the rail tracks are being stolen by people and all of that. So it appears we do not have control, effective monitoring of our rail lines.
Yes. The incident yesterday, I think, was the third in the last 6 months along that axis. The train, according to the spokesperson of NRC in northern Nigeria, he said that it was ferrying soda products, I think, by Coca-Cola to Kano.
Soft drinks,
yeah. And some months ago, I think around December, inside Kaduna town, there was equally another incident. And I think about 2 people were killed over the same issue. In Niger here, something. Jeba, something. If you calculate, if you just go maybe do a content analysis, the issue is recurring. And nobody seems to bother. The NRC of management is cash strapped. Don't even go to Kaduna, or that is the old track, the colonial legacy we have. In the capital city, we had a light rail that we borrowed money to build. You remember? Mm-hmm. The one that will take you to the city center, down to Idu, the rail, down to the airport. A multi-million-dollar infrastructure. It worked for less than a year. It's out of work now. We did a story last year. The FCT officials were telling us that about 46 sections of the light rail have been vandalized, and they require at least 5 billion naira to fix it.
For a train station that was never in service.
It was in service for some months. The light rail, if you are going to the city center just behind those twin towers, Church Gate, down to Idu railway station, you pass through the airport and aside adjacent the stadium, finance quarters, down to Idu train station, down to the airport. Maybe you haven't observed it. It has been out of sight work for more than Ayana. It worked for less than a year.
You know, is this, how easy is it to really vandalize this thing? When you think of the heavy metallic equipment that we're using in this construction, how easy is it for people to show up on that corridor and within a few hours cut away these tracks?
And in a city center for that matter.
For that matter, with all the CCTV cameras perhaps.
Okay, that's another thing. There is no CCTV camera in Abuja. It's a multi-billion naira project that collapsed before it even picked up, if you remember, the ZTE stuff. That is one. And secondly, it's just like oil theft. Petty criminals don't do that. It's a specialized business. Just like cable and power cables are high tension. Professionals with insiders in the industry. I remember when we did that story, you know, we content analyzed all the incidents. Last year in Nasarawa State, a senior special assistant to the current governor of Nasarawa State on infrastructure was arrested over the same vandalism. He has boys, including policemen, that were vandalizing the sleepers and they were selling to him. Same thing in Kapanchan. They vandalized the tracks. They hit the sleepers behind the police station.
Amazing.
So you understand? Actually, we are losing control.
You know, it beats my imagination how $1 billion project of that magnitude will be constructed and commissioned without the integrated security, surveillance, and monitoring system that we are now talking about. You know, after the deed has been done, you know, how could a project of that magnitude, be constructed? Is it that there were no security concerns in the process of the construction, or it wasn't envisaged that there are likely, people who would come, to vandalize some of these things?
You know, there is this what I call disaster profiteering. Some people deliberately ignore such concerns you raise, just to profit on them when disasters do occur. Now, look at the Abuja track issue, the Kaduna terror attack. The minister is saying that about 3 billion is needed to fix it. That's where many people will eat. God. Unfortunately, this mentality about service has eaten deep, not only from at the individual level, up to even the government level. You'll buy a car of 5 million. I'll be very envious to insure it for 500,000 naira. That is it. It's 5 million worth of vehicle, but you have, no, how can I insure it with even 200,000? So that's the mentality that we have adopted even in public service. Again, the minister, if you listen to him, he said that it was just 3 billion, but the whole thing was kicked out when he presented it before the fake. President Jonathan did not commission the Abuja-Kaduna train service because of that corridor.
So now we are also seeing, new revelations, about that request and the claim by the Minister of Transportation, about that request that he made, the 3 billion naira request for the installation of this surveillance system in place. And the information is that the minister was recommending the $3.7 billion worth of contract to be given to a company that has no track record, which is one of the reasons why it was rejected by the Federal Executive Council, and that because they do not have track record, the Federal Executive Council felt, well, they cannot, and that there was, lack of detail as to the capacity of the system that, the minister is requesting to be installed for that purpose. So, I mean, when you hear this, sides of argument as well, where does that leave us?
Just look at it. If you follow, I've been following the Abuja Kaduna since it was commissioned. I missed only a few instances. Integrated surveillance is grammar. And when our politicians are blowing grammar, what this simply means, they want to eat. The Chinese that build these trucks, they have the technology. Why can't you integrate it into the contract? So, what happened to Kaduna Abuja trend, the two attacks, the October and the this week attack? It means that can happen equally to the Lagos Ibadan standard gauge train service. So you borrow money to build that multi-billion dollar infrastructure without talking about the security concern.
Let us leave that at that point, especially given that it's a recurring development, and I'm sure we will have the opportunity to drill down on how not to execute a contract in Nigeria. But if you look at, still staying with the Daily Trust, this major report, which appears to be the second lead on the paper, bandits on rampage in Abuja, Kogi, Kaduna, kill 11, adopt custom officer orders in Zaria, Kaduna city resident Jetri after bomb attack. What is painful about this report is the fact that the communities that were hit have been hit before and again. What does this suggest about our security architecture and learning from previous attacks?
The way our security architecture works, sometimes you wonder, I am not a security man. Yes, I don't have those intelligence that some people are being paid to gather intelligence. Some people are being paid to process those intelligence. And some people are being paid to recommend actions to be taken, immediate, medium, or long term. And these people are trained. We spend so much on them. It has to do with the political will. It has been my stance that because, Mr. Sunday, you are given this responsibility and you refuse to execute it, and you stay put because there is no consequence. That is it. Nobody was punished yet, has been punished because of this. It can happen in other countries. It can happen in other countries. But because nepotism, crass corruption, and disaster profiteering, like I told you, is what goes around. The president met with the services, and even the media has been hoodwinked into believing that the Tuesday meeting was a routine meeting. Nothing special about it. It was a routine meeting, just like the fake on Wednesdays. You mentioned from January to date, how many attacks were conducted within Zaria metropolis? Wusasa, that place, and what have you. Count.
You said you are not a security expert, but let me attempt to make you psychoanalyze what happens at the security meeting. How do you show up as somebody who has a mandate to protect a place every time there is an attack? What do you think they go to tell the president, essentially? Is it to rationalize what has happened, or to defend the inactions by their men, or the inability to stop these actions on their track? What exactly do you think happened when you say it's a routine meeting? What does the president expect after such a calamity?
As usual, it's a team meeting, all manner of salutes. The way the president maybe greet his people,
Lieutenant.
Maybe they talk about more money. Nothing else. Nothing operational. Yes. nothing operational.
I mean, don't we need the money, after all, to put our
It's
logistics
money,
in
the
place?
little you have, Mr. Ayuba, what have you done with it?
But clearly, it looks like we have a problem of logistics here, deploying troops to certain locations, such as where we had the last attack, you know, there. It's not a usual terrain, you know, and all that. So in terms of logistics, don't you think that there's some kind of need for us to take a look at that and see what are the things that are needed, you know, by our military or our security officials?
Have you checked the budget assented to by Mr. President for 2022? Do you know how much has been allocated to security? The military operations in particular. If that's Sembisa, from Dusi, where the attack took place, if you stand there, you can see the road. You will see the vehicles flying.
Okay. All right. Now, just for us not to drag this, but there's this interesting story also I've seen on the Daily Trust newspaper where we're seeing that there's concern, you know, over recurring failure of foreign trained doctors, you know, for them to practice here in Nigeria. So I'm wondering, for foreign trained doctors, you would expect that they have gotten the best of training to be able to pass whatever exam that will be set here in Nigeria, but that's not the case necessarily.
This issue has been there for a very long time. What type of exams were they allowed to sit for? Is it their problem or the problem of the examiners? Let's say you train in Ukraine or Belgium. I'm not saying that you train in Cotonou, Benin, all these controversial universities. People send their kids to train in Sudan, Egypt, Malaysia, Ukraine, the Eastern blocks where there is this problem. Are you saying that their school system is poor? I believe there has been a systemic stigmatization for people who are trained abroad. Yes. Do you know why? Do you know about the racketeering taking place in MDCN? I have a cousin. He graduated from Erazi. He was one of the tops. He sat for the exams. His colleagues came. They pay money and they passed. I asked him, I said, what happened? He said, no, I'll be part of that rubbish. People that set the exams here are all these ultra-conservatives, people who believe that at 21 or 22, you are not supposed to be a trained doctor.
And
they want you to go to the Nigerian university.
And Nigeria is at stake here now, because at the end of the day, we do not have enough doctors that will attend to the health concerns here.
And that is why the moment they come here, whether you certify them or not, they go back abroad. And they are employed. And they are doing well. It is the problem with the exams you set for them. Because you don't want to see people at 22, 23 qualified as trained doctors. You want them to be in the Nigerian university where they will spend 10, 15 years before they qualify.
It's unfortunate where we have found ourselves with those issues. Hopefully the authorities are watching and they will do something about it. Moving quickly to the next paper, we will take a look at the Punch, and the major headline for us here reads, Kaduna Reign of Terror. Terrorists kill 7 soldiers. NAV rains bombs on forest. And the riders here read, military gets approval to deploy Super Tucanos. DSS, police, comb forest. National Assembly threatens shutdown. APC lawmakers demands NSA sacking. Leaked memos reveal why FEC rejected Amechi's 3.7 billion security proposal, which I'm sure we have talked about. And right below the major headline is Oyo get NAV base, Makinde boosts construction with 500 million. Money politics, Froster, hindering Nigeria since independence. This is by Peter Obi on page 19. Businessman pressures Obasanjo Oshibajo to join presidential race. Getting impatient. Page 18, you will find that story. And soldiers crying for help in viral videos absconded in battle, says the army on page 9. Looking at this major story, one that gets me a bit worried is one of the riders that says military gets approval to deploy Super Tucanos. One would wonder, why did we spend so much to bring these things and have them on display? And we had some of our colleagues even undertake a tour of this equipment, and they told us all stories about how this would be, this would change the narrative in the fight against insurgents. What kind of approvals exactly are they getting? A special kind of approval?
I mean,
did they
in
need
any
to
case,
get?
that sounds like a cliche to me because I've heard that story
these
before.
approvals have, this kind of seems to come and stop somewhere, and then you have to get another approval. What kind of approval do you need to deploy the Super Tucanos?
I always use this caveat, Mr. Sunday. I am not a security expert, but as an observer, as a journalist, just imagine. From day one, you mentioned something. I met you went to Kaduna crying, blah, 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 blah. And look at what happened. It was apparently a selfish mission. Yes. And the people in the presidency, thankfully, observed it and they blocked it. Now, even this acquisition of these Tucanos, or is it Super Tucanos that you're talking about? Were they the right equipment to address our security challenges? I am not a security expert, but I have interviewed and listened to security experts talking. The recent one was Colonel Dengiwa Umar, a retired officer, celebrated officer during his time. He said, what you need is not Tucano, it's gunships. Reconnaissance and gunships. Less collateral damage. We saw what happened the 6 weeks that the Jonathan administration postponed the elections. These were the equipment they used. Gunship choppers, they were told that they were even armored. They liberated 14 out of 17 local governments under Boko Haram in 6 weeks. At the time, I was even talking about even quality. Your pilots were crashing these machines, multi-million-dollar machines. We have to bring Ukrainians. Unfortunately, now they are at war. South Africa's mercenaries, right? And they clean up the place. If it involves bringing even devils, not angels, to clear this mess, let the president, as the commander-in-chief, please do it. Our security system has failed.
All right, let's take a look at...
That's it.
Let's take a look at other papers. The Nation newspaper leads with the story that says fears mount. Over 136 people on attacked Abuja Kaduna train. Of course, it's one of the stories that we've been looking at since the beginning of the week. It says they can't be contacted, says NRC. Terrorists phone 5 hostages' families. Angry reps pass vote of no confidence in security chiefs. And then you also have another rider there says, it says police defuse IED at train station, panic in FCT Kaduna Abuja Road. So these are some of the riders to that story, but still the same story that we've been talking about as well. We have 30 days rainfall to pound Lagos this year. That's weather forecast. 300 days rather. You also have gunmen abduct customs official, 9 others in Kaduna. We've seen this in other papers. Let's take a look at the Leadership newspaper. It leads with the story of 2023 presidency. It says Northern PDP aspirants intensify plan to produce next president. You have the riders that says Tambuwal, Bala, Saraki, Hayatuddin take consensus campaign to IBB in Mina. You also have Nigeria's unity, progress more important, says ex-military president. And now also the next one says we can't complete Ajakuta plant before leaving in 2023, and that's according to the federal government. On the other hand, we've heard that British firm is going to fix the Ajakuta steel for free, and that's according to the federal government. So, well, we have these two sides to the story. The Daily Trust is reporting with that, Leadership is reporting with the other. Now, what are your thoughts about, let's talk about the Ajakuta Steel Company, first of all.
Ajakuta is like Mambila project. There are campaign projects. You campaign that you're going to fix it. And when you get elected, you look the other way.
So say it's an audio project, is it?
When the minister was talking, we did this story, I think, last year, early last year, mid of last year. Because when President Buhari visited Russia, they met, not Oslo, there was this place where they did the Olympics in Russia, you know.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. So they met. Bilateral agreement we signed, specifically on Ajakuta. African Exim Bank, based in Cairo, was to provide the financing. A Russian firm will come and fix this thing. Was it December or January? We write on a FOI to the SGF because he hates. So when the president came back here, do you know the time frame they give? 18 months. A presidential panel was set up, headed by the SGF, even though I criticize it. I say AGF is the head of the federal government. Why are you putting him on COVID? Everything SGF, everything SGF. You understand? So we wrote them. Coincidentally, we are to give certain funding. The African Exim Bank based in Cairo will provide the financing. We wrote all the stakeholders. They said that the committee have not done anything as usual. One insider told us that they hardly meet because the SGF was busy with COVID committee. You know, it's more lucrative.
Yeah, but I think it is fair to say, according to the explanation of the minister, that while originally scheduled for 2 months, then COVID happened. We know that everywhere shut down, which was a health emergency. So maybe it's understandable that the SGF heads it just to make sure that somebody at the highest level of government is coordinating. Then they said after COVID, now the Russian-Ukrainian war, they are not even able to make payments to Russia because of the blockages of international financing. Is that not justified, really?
No,
the reason why
no.
this should have...
But Sunday, I strongly disagree. I laughed when I saw it yesterday. We are journalists. When did the Western countries impose these sanctions on Russia? Is it up to 3 months? No. Lockdown was lifted, so to say, since December 2020. What happened between January 2021 and December 2021? We wrote the SGF. He referred us to the Ministry of Steel and no response as I'm talking to you. So what is simply they did it, and it has never been part of the agenda. And look at now, they are saying that British firm, they're even confused.
Let me quickly take your thoughts on one of the windows on the leadership newspaper. It reads, Reps adjourn plenary over incessant killing. One wonders, is it time to adjourn plenaries or to actually have plenaries to decide, to be firm on what we need to do to nip this?
How many times do they meet?
Twice in a week, I think.
So can you imagine? Unfortunately, the executive, the lawmaker, you imagine, when I watch congressmen in the US or UK, actually holding the executives into account, I'm wondering why we have here, are just mediocres. Talk. And another, the worst part of it, they're even misleading the media. The reps direct or orders. They don't. They advise. They don't order they can't order anybody. They only advise. Do you say the National Assembly orders or directs? No. You can't execute powers that you don't have. So now, okay, they are adjourning because of insecurity. Maybe there are security reports. Our security system is working fantastically. There was intel that IPOB will invade the MQ Abiola Stadium. And all the VIPs boycotted the thing, even though one of the biggest VIP was there, but he didn't stay because of that security concern. But we didn't have that security that terrorists will bomb the Kaduna train. There was no such.
Well, they will say there were intels months before that there was a possibility.
Okay, and they didn't take any action.
And they didn't take any action.
Well, let's take a look at other papers. Finally, the Guardian newspaper, briefly. The lead story talks about Kaduna train attack, security threats rising, need new strategies, says Niger president. It has the riders that says El-Rufai restates call for bombardment of forest inhabited by terrorists. Huriwa military's reluctance to deploy to Kano jets shows tolerance for terrorists. Outburst by El-Rufai, Amechi confirmed complicity of APC leaders. That's according to the PDP now. Amechi should apologize to Nigerians and resign. Ajulo rather. Shehu Sani rep want Nigerians to bear arms. He says anxiety as police diffuse bomb in Kaduna community. That's the lead story. And then above the lead story, it says EFCC to appeal ex NNPC GMD Yakubu is discharged, acquitted on $9.8 million corruption charges. Resign if you can't unmask killers of Nigerians, TUC tells Buhari. And then the next one, tribunal restrains multi-choice from increasing DSTV GoTV subscription. Telcos issue 7-day warning, plan discriminatory pricing in hostile states. Now, I'm interested in this story of the former NNPC boss, Andrew Yakubu, who was accused of, laundering, a lot of money, about $9.8 million. And now he has been discharged by the Court of Appeal. I mean, what does this say about our fight of corruption, against corruption? The court is saying that there is no sufficient evidence to prove.
Well, I think what's even what's symbolic for me is how the FCC seem to have been losing all of their important cases lately. What does this speak to?
I mean, during the time of the arrest, this was one of the biggest stories
case,
that we
celebrated
Nigerians were celebrating.
as
That
it were.
okay, we have them in our nets now, but apparently he's going free.
Mr. Ayuba, these chaps were arrested for you to celebrate them, and you did. They were arrested not for them to be prosecuted, for them to be celebrated on the pages of the newspapers, maybe to malign, ridicule the name of the man. Understand? It was at the peak of that whistle-blowing stuff. Somebody will put money at your backyard, you blow the whistle, and all the media, it will dominate the front pages. And look at what happened now. If I were him, I will sue all the newspapers that malign my name. Do you know why? It was during Damagu's time. Presently, if you look at the new leadership, I think they are very cautious. They are not towing that line. Which line was it that Magu adopted, notoriously, was for arrest-led investigations, not investigations-led arrests. You arrest people, keep them, go to a magistrate and get a warrant to keep them for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month, before you start investigating them, scraping for evidence to prosecute them. You can't go anywhere with that. And that's why most of the cases have been thrown out by courts for lack of due diligence prosecution, lack of sufficient evidence. Even look at the BB cases. Take, for instance, the arms deal. One by one, Metu is free. Raymond Duplessis is free. Because the arrests, were meant for newspapers to celebrate them. And they did. Look at what the judge said yesterday. 6 count charges, 4 were trashed, and the subsequent were, and he was discharged and acquitted. Yes, the EFCC is.
Thank you very much. For want of time, that is the much that we can take on the newspaper review today, and giving us this insightful analysis, as it were, it's one of our own, Nuruddin Abdullah, who is the editor of 21st Century Chronicles. I hope you have a very pleasant day outside the studios. And we hope to see you again for more.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sunday.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Welcome. Thank you.
Today is a special day, as we have said earlier. It's the 1st of April with all the banters outgoing. And we will take a look at all other significant events that happened today in history. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that a person look at the same,
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that